question she may have. A good friend from Colorado.
I thank the chairman. I want to thank all of the members for their testimony regarding their amendments. Mr. Schweikert, I may be one of the few members of this body that watches your weekly C-SPAN speeches. With the charts, I might be the one. So I endeavor to try. I don't make each one of them, but I do. I watch those that I can. And I want to thank you for your intellectual honesty today with respect to the testimony you've offered in support of your amendment. And while I don't, we might not see eye to eye with respect to your underlying amendment. I think the point you are making is so incredibly important. And I wrote down a couple of words here, but playing games. I mean, essentially the way in which this bill has been drafted to a sort of contrived offset that is no offset at all. It's safe for me to just say, and I want to make sure I'm understanding this right, the bill that's before this committee and that will be before the House, unless it is amended, would add $26.8 billion to the deficit.
According to the way we do the score,
Uh-huh.
and actually have lots of arguments because you and I would probably model the scoring mechanisms, both the people on the left and the right, we have issues in that, but we have a rules keeper and we live by it. And my argument is, this is a really important piece of legislation. There should be no question of our commitment. And I'm so sorry to say this, and we're all sinners here, but I believe the choice of this as our offset, there was cleaner ways to do it.
I mean, it's not an offset, right? I mean, according to the referee that you described,
Look, it
this
carries across
adds billions of dollars to the deficit.
And I haven't had time to, I built a macro on my Excel spreadsheet on how to eventually do interest in those things and see if they use current interest calculations. And if you're the one person who's watched the floor speeches, you know we try to say the balance on that. But I also have a great concern. We do this the right way, and I'm sorry. I don't believe, I mean, I'll vote for the bill because the underlying is so important, but there was a better path to get there.
Yeah, well, I would say, you know, your prior testimony to me, and I think you're being consistent now, but it makes it very clear, and the CBO score makes this point clear enough. This bill does not provide any kind of offset. It adds $26 billion to the deficit by virtue of the repeal of the various funding mechanisms for the IRS. I mean, that's very clear from the CBO, and it's why you've offered your amendment, as you've said, because you believe that there is a different way to do this in which there would be an actual offset. And whether or not we might agree or disagree about the propriety of that offset or the wisdom in pursuing it, it's at least clear that it is an actual offset.
And it's clean.
And it's clean, and this is not. This is not. And I guess that's the point. I mean, I would hope we could kind of dispense with the facade, right? And sort of this, the contrived nature of the argument that somehow this is an actual offset and we're decreasing the deficit when we clearly know that not to be the case. And
you do understand how nervous it makes me when a Democrat's agreeing with me.
I hear you. But honestly, Mr. Schweikert, I think what frustrates me is you have been intellectually honest. There are other members of this committee, there are members of the body who have bemoaned the use of, you know, what they call political gimmicks or budget gimmicks and the like, who will have no problem voting in favor of this bill and increasing the deficit by $27 billion tomorrow. And it just, I don't know how somebody can apply that level of inconsistency intellectually with respect to the votes they take. That's their judgment, and they'll have to defend those votes. But I appreciate, as I said, you being straightforward and honest with respect to what you've submitted in terms of this amendment. And, you know, my hope would be that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle would find a different course to pursue rather than this one, which is clearly not on the level. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you very much. Gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized.